There's a father sitting in his driveway right now, engine off, hands gripping the steering wheel. He's staring at his front door like it's the entrance to a battlefield, because that's exactly what it is. Inside that house, chaos is waiting. The screaming will start the moment he walks through the door. The accusations have already been rehearsed. Maybe a lamp gets thrown this time. Maybe just words sharp enough to cut deeper than any blade. Tomorrow morning, he'll button his shirt carefully, making sure the collar hides the scratches, the ones that run down his neck like war wounds from a conflict nobody wants to acknowledge. If a coworker notices, he's got his story ready. The cat. Always the cat. Because the truth is unspeakable. His wife did it during another one of their arguments that somehow always ends with him bleeding and her playing victim. But here's what makes this truly devastating. If he tells anyone, they won't believe him. And the ones who do believe, they won't care. This isn't one man's story. This is millions of men living in silent torment while society looks the other way. Their suffering has become invisible, ignored, somehow completely acceptable. And the worst part? It's not an accident. It's by design. Before we go deeper into this reality, hit that subscribe button right now. This is the content they don't want you to see. Turn on notifications because videos like this get buried. Your subscription is your vote for truth. The dismissal of male victimhood follows a pattern. A man comes forward about emotional destruction, verbal warfare, financial manipulation, physical violence, and the response is always the same. What did you do to provoke her? Be a man about it. You're bigger and stronger. How bad could it really be? The same culture that demands we believe all victims suddenly goes deaf when that victim happens to be male. I know a man whose partner would attack him during disagreements, not open-handed slaps, closed fists, real punches. One night, she gave him a black eye that swelled shut within an hour. He finally called the police, thought maybe someone would help. They arrested him. Not her. Him. The logic was simple and devastating. She was 5'2". He was 6 feet tall. Obviously, he must have been the aggressor. The size difference alone convicted him before he could speak. He spent that night in a cell while she systematically destroyed everything in his apartment. His clothes shredded, his electronics smashed, his life torn apart by someone who knew the system would protect her and punish him. This is the reality we've constructed, a world where suffering has a gender requirement, where pain only counts if you're born with the right biology. When a woman breaks down crying at her desk, the entire office mobilizes. Comfort, support, understanding. Someone must have heard her. Something must be wrong. How can we help? When a man shows emotion at work, the whispers start immediately. Unstable, weak, not management material, can't handle pressure, maybe he's dangerous. The message couldn't be clearer. Your pain doesn't qualify unless you check the correct demographic box. The double standards in intimate relationships are absolutely staggering. Behaviors that would be immediately labeled as abusive, controlling, and toxic when done by men somehow become quirky, protective, or justified when done by women. She goes through his phone without permission, she's just insecure. Help her feel secure, address her trust issues. She's been hurt before. He glances at her unlocked screen, controlling, abusive, major red flag, get out now. She demands his location at all times, tracks his movements, needs to know where he is every moment. She cares about safety. She loves him. She just worries. He asks where she's going. Possessive, jealous, psychotic behavior. This is how it starts. These aren't hypothetical examples. These are patterns that play out in millions of relationships right now. I've watched women openly boast on social media about checking their boyfriend's browser history, reading his private messages, following him to see if he's really where he claims to be. Now imagine a man posting that same content. The response would be immediate and brutal. Thousands of comments calling him abusive, demands that someone save his girlfriend from this psychotic. But when women do it, the comments section fills with support. "Sis, you better. Know your worth, queen. If he's not hiding anything, he shouldn't care." The financial power imbalances affecting men get dismissed entirely. Some partners control every dollar despite contributing nothing to the household income. They spend freely on themselves while interrogating him about every purchase. They accumulate massive debt in his name while protecting their own credit score like a fortress. Try discussing financial abuse of men and watch people literally laugh in your face. If this is hitting home, drop a comment below. Share your story. Let's build a record of what society refuses to document, and smash that like button to push this message further. The manipulation of violence statistics is deliberate and comprehensive. Every legitimate study showing that women initiate domestic violence at equal or sometimes higher rates gets buried, ignored, dismissed as flawed methodology or misogynistic propaganda. The documented fact that same-sex female relationships have the highest rates of domestic violence, that topic is absolutely forbidden in mainstream conversation. The reality that most child abuse is statistically committed by mothers, completely taboo. We've engineered a narrative where only one gender can be a victim and only one gender can be an abuser. Any evidence contradicting this narrative gets memory hold. When violence is mutual or female-directed, it either vanishes from the record or gets completely reframed. She throws dishes at his head? He must have pushed her to that breaking point. What did he do to make her so angry? She destroys his property during a rage? He probably deserved it for something. She physically attacks him and he restrains her arms to protect himself? Now he's the abuser for leaving marks on her wrists. Those bruises become evidence against him. The game was rigged before it even started. There's this systematic pattern of pathologizing men's behavior while normalizing identical actions in women. A man raises his voice during a heated discussion? That's verbal abuse, anger management issues, potential for escalation to physical violence. A woman screams for hours? She's expressing her feelings. She's passionate. She has every right to her emotions. He walks away from an argument to cool down, emotionally unavailable, stonewalling, refusing to communicate, abandonment. She gives him the silent treatment for days. She needs time to process. She's protecting herself. She's setting boundaries. The exact same behavior, completely opposite interpretations based solely on who's doing it. Don't let them silence this message. Subscribe now. Hit that notification bell. This truth needs to reach millions, but it only happens if you take action right now. One click, that's all it takes to fight back against the narrative. The bias in professional and economic environments is visible to anyone willing to actually look. We hear endlessly about women's workplace struggles, and some of those concerns are legitimate. But let's talk about who's actually dying while building the world everyone else enjoys. 93% of workplace fatalities are men. Construction workers falling from buildings, miners trapped underground, loggers crushed by falling timber, fishermen lost at sea, electrical workers electrocuted, men dying by the thousands every single year, doing jobs that keep civilization functioning. But the national conversation focuses on whether office air conditioning is sexist. Men occupy the most dangerous occupations. They work the longest hours on average. They have the shortest life expectancy. Yet we're constantly told they're the privileged ones. A woman in a climate-controlled office writes articles about patriarchal oppression while men are literally dying to keep her electricity running. The cognitive dissonance is absolutely staggering. Workplace hazards that disproportionately kill and maim men receive essentially zero attention in mainstream discourse. Black lung disease destroying minors? Almost entirely men. Nobody cares. Deaths from falling off communication towers? 100% men. Silence. Industrial accidents, chemical exposure, machinery deaths? Overwhelmingly male victims. But let's hold another corporate conference about women in technology feeling slightly uncomfortable in meetings. The disparities in reproductive rights and family law might be the most blatant injustice in modern society. Men have exactly 0 reproductive rights after conception. None, not one. A woman can terminate a pregnancy without informing the father, or she can choose to have the child and legally compel him to provide financial support for 18 to 21 years. He has no voice, no choice, no options whatsoever. Just obligations. Women have every legal protection and reproductive choice imaginable. Multiple forms of contraception, emergency contraception, abortion access, adoption, safe haven laws allowing them to surrender infants with no questions asked. Men have condoms and the hope that she's being honest about her birth control. If she lies about being on birth control, he's still liable. If she tampers with contraception, he's still liable. If she retrieves genetic material from a discarded condom and impregnates herself, he's still liable for child support. These aren't theoretical scenarios. These are documented court cases where men were held financially responsible for children conceived through deception or outright theft. Courts favor mothers in custody battles, regardless of the actual circumstances. Fathers who desperately want to be involved in their children's lives get every other weekend if they're lucky, maybe a dinner visit on Wednesdays. Mothers who are demonstrably unfit with documented substance abuse or neglect still receive primary custody in the overwhelming majority of cases. The foundational assumption remains that children need mothers more than fathers. This persists despite decades of research showing children need both parents equally for healthy development. Men face financial and emotional obligations even when denied any decision-making power whatsoever. Your ex-partner can move your children across the country. You still pay. She can introduce an endless parade of temporary boyfriends into their lives. You still pay. She can systematically poison your children against you, filling their heads with lies. You still pay. No rights, all responsibilities. This is the reality they don't teach in schools. Share this video right now. Send it to every man who needs to hear this. And comment below with one word, truth. Let's show them we're not silent anymore. The safety and risk misperceptions are literally killing men by the millions. Cultural messaging constantly portrays women as existing in perpetual danger, while men are treated as invulnerable. But here's the actual reality. Men are 78% of murder victims. Men are 75% of assault victims. Men are 80% of suicide completions. But who does society obsess over protecting? Who gets the awareness campaigns and the special safety programs? Men are statistically far more likely to experience violent attacks in public spaces, yet we've constructed this elaborate mythology that women face constant threat every time they step outside. Every man understands he could be targeted for violence at any moment. We just don't talk about it. We don't demand special accommodations. We don't create viral hashtags. We simply accept that male suffering and male death are just part of the background noise of existence. The laser focus on female safety while systematically ignoring male victims distorts public understanding completely. We have endless campaigns about violence against women, while men are actually being killed at substantially higher rates. It's like running fire safety campaigns exclusively for brick houses, while completely ignoring the wooden structures that are actively burning down. This cultural obsession with female suffering has reached almost religious intensity. Every minor inconvenience women experience becomes treated as a national crisis, requiring immediate action. Manspreading on public transit, national news coverage, emergency campaigns, public shaming initiatives. Meanwhile, men are dying by suicide at 4 times the rate of women. Deafening silence. Women feeling underrepresented in video games? Full-scale moral panic. Congressional hearings. Men being systematically underrepresented in universities, that's called progress. That's equity in action. Public attention and sympathy are finite resources, and those resources are almost entirely allocated to one demographic while the other suffers in invisible silence. Every celebrity knows it. Every corporation knows it. Every politician knows it. Champion issues affecting women and receive universal praise. Mention issues affecting men and face immediate savage backlash. The incentive structure guarantees male suffering remains invisible. But it gets worse. Male suffering isn't just ignored, it's actively mocked. A woman attacks her husband, cuts off his penis, and disposes of it? Late-night comedy material, audience laughter, jokes for weeks. A man loses everything in divorce court? He probably deserved it. Should have been a better husband, should have worked harder, should have kept her happy. A father denied access to his children? He must be a deadbeat, must have done something wrong. Good fathers don't lose custody, right? The cruelty is completely socially acceptable because the victims are male. Social narratives systematically elevate certain struggles while completely erasing others. We're told constantly, relentlessly, about the unique suffering of specific demographic groups. Meanwhile, we pretend other groups don't suffer at all. This has created a rigid hierarchy of victimhood, where your pain only matters if you possess the correct demographic characteristics. Hit that subscribe button hard. Ring that notification bell harder. This message is being suppressed everywhere else. Your subscription is an act of rebellion against enforced silence. The perception that women suffer more than men isn't grounded in objective reality. It's grounded in selective attention and conditioned response. Some people receive infinite sympathy for paper cuts, while others get ignored for gunshot wounds. It's not about who actually suffers more in some grand calculation. It's about whose suffering we've been culturally conditioned to recognize and care about. Both genders face genuine challenges and hardships, but societal narratives dictate whose struggles receive recognition, resources, and remedies. A woman struggling in a male-dominated professional field gets documentary films made about her journey, book deals, speaking tours. A man struggling in a female-dominated field gets told to stop complaining and deal with it. The exact same challenge, the exact same struggle, completely different responses based entirely on gender. Look at the clear patterns of systemic bias across every single domain of society. In domestic abuse recognition, male victims are invisible. In workplace safety and mortality, men are expendable. In reproductive rights and autonomy, men are powerless. In family law and custody, men are reduced to wallets. In mental health awareness and resources, men are ignored. In educational outcomes and support, men are failing at every level. But somehow, point any of this out, and you're labeled as the sexist. You're the problem. You're the one spreading hate. Structural inequities and cultural narratives consistently favor certain demographics in attention, support, legal frameworks, and resource allocation. There are government departments dedicated to women's health, despite men dying younger from virtually every major cause of death. There are scholarships exclusively for women in fields where women already represent the majority. There are hiring quotas favoring women in industries where they're already overrepresented. The unrecognized hardships men face compound over time, accumulating like interest on an unpaid debt. Each small disadvantage ignored. Each moment of suffering dismissed. Each legitimate concern mocked. It adds up, builds, grows heavier with each passing year. By middle age, many men are completely broken, alone, hopeless. And society's response? Their own toxic masculinity must be the problem. Not the systematic neglect, not the cultural contempt, their own supposed defectiveness. Comment below. What's one truth about male suffering that nobody wants to admit? Let's document what they're trying to erase. And subscribe so you never miss content that fights for the forgotten. Highlighting male experiences isn't about diminishing anyone else's genuine struggles. It's about acknowledging the fundamental truth that suffering doesn't discriminate by gender. Pain is pain, regardless of who feels it. Abuse is abuse, regardless of who inflicts it. Injustice is injustice, regardless of who experiences it. But we've constructed an elaborate system where only certain people's pain is counted as legitimate. The workplace mortality gap alone should be treated as a national emergency. If 93% of workplace deaths came from any other demographic category, there would be congressional investigations, presidential commissions, national days of remembrance, massive funding initiatives. But because it's men dying, it's just Tuesday, just another day, just the acceptable cost of keeping civilization operational. I counsel men whose lives have been absolutely destroyed by this systematic invisibility. Men who endured abuse for years but were never believed when they finally spoke up. Men who lost their children in family court despite being exceptional fathers. Men who were falsely accused and watched their entire lives disintegrate based on lies. Men who supposedly had every privilege checked off, except the only one that actually matters in the end, being seen as worthy of basic human sympathy. The suicide statistics should terrify every single person in society. Men are ending their own lives at rates that would be called a genocide if we were discussing any other demographic group. But instead of seriously addressing why men are choosing death over continuing to live, we blame them for not expressing their emotions correctly, as if the problem is their communication style rather than our collective refusal to listen. Military veterans, who are overwhelmingly male, have suicide rates that should shock the conscience of the nation. These men sacrificed everything for their country. They came back physically and psychologically shattered, and society's response? Practically nothing. A few symbolic yellow ribbons. "Thank you for your service," muttered awkwardly at the grocery store. Then complete abandonment. Their suffering remains invisible because acknowledging it would require actual resource commitment and systemic change. The educational system has catastrophically failed boys and young men for decades now. They're drugged for displaying normal, energetic behavior, punished for learning styles that don't conform to feminine-optimized classroom structures, graded more harshly than girls for identical work, admitted to universities at substantially lower rates despite equal or better qualifications. Then we sit around wondering why young men are dropping out of society entirely. Male victims of sexual assault might as well not exist according to mainstream awareness. When you include prison populations in the statistics, men are sexually assaulted at nearly the same rate as women in America. But there are no awareness campaigns, no dedicated months, no ribbons, no support networks, no funding. Male victims are treated as punchlines for jokes, not as priorities for support. The family court system is absolutely medieval in its treatment of fathers. Men who desperately want to be fully involved in their children's lives get reduced to visitor status. They become walking ATMs with no actual authority, wallets with no parental rights. Then society turns around and blames deadbeat dads when these systematically broken men finally give up fighting a system explicitly designed to exclude them. Being forced into financial obligations without corresponding rights or basic recognition is slavery by another name.
A man can be legally forced to pay child support for a child that DNA testing proves isn't biologically his.
He can be jailed for inability to pay support even when he's unemployed through no fault of his own. He can have his wages garnished, his driver's license suspended, his passport revoked, his entire life systematically destroyed for the crime of being unable to afford payments that were set when he had a completely different job situation. This is why we fight. This is why this channel exists. Subscribe now. Turn on all notifications. Share this everywhere. They want us silent. Your engagement is your refusal to comply. The empathy gap is measurable and extensively documented in psychological research. Studies consistently show that both men and women have significantly more sympathy for female suffering than for male suffering. We're literally conditioned by culture to care less when men are hurting. This isn't opinion or theory. This is documented psychological fact proven through repeated, rigorous studies. Some women who abuse men understand perfectly well that the system protects them completely. They know they can hit without legal consequence. They know they can lie and be automatically believed. They know they can destroy property, reputation, and psychological health with total impunity. The system isn't broken, it's working exactly as designed to enable certain types of abuse while ignoring others. The man-up culture isn't just toxic, it's genuinely lethal. Men are told to suppress every emotion, handle every burden, endure every hardship, and never complain about any of it. Then, when they inevitably break under impossible pressure, we blame them for not handling that pressure better. We've created impossible standards, then we punish men for failing to meet them. Mental health resources specifically for men are practically non-existent. There are countless programs dedicated to women's mental health, specialized treatment modalities, dedicated facilities, extensive funding. For men, here's a prescription for antidepressants. Try not to kill yourself. Next patient, please. The mental health industry treats male suffering as either non-existent or entirely self-inflicted. Provider pressure never actually disappeared. It just became completely unidirectional. Men are still expected to provide financially, protect physically, and perform consistently. But now they're simultaneously supposed to be emotionally vulnerable, domestically involved, and completely non-threatening. The requirements doubled while the recognition and appreciation completely disappeared. Modern men are asked to do absolutely everything while being appreciated for precisely nothing. Workplace discrimination against men is entirely legal in many contexts. Diversity quotas that explicitly exclude men from consideration. Scholarships that men literally cannot apply for. Professional advancement programs that men are barred from accessing. All completely legal, all celebrated as progress, all contributing to the narrative that male suffering is justified payback for historical advantages that current men never personally experienced or benefited from. The loneliness epidemic ravaging men is a direct result of this systematic societal neglect. Men have no dedicated spaces anymore, no support networks, no sympathy. They're told their gatherings are inherently toxic, their friendships are shallow, their bonds are somehow suspect. Then everyone sits around genuinely wondering why men are isolated and dying. Physical health disparities are absolutely staggering. Men die younger from every single major disease category. Men are significantly less likely to seek medical help because they've been culturally conditioned to just tough it out. Men's health research receives a small fraction of the funding that women's health receives. But somehow, men are still described as privileged in healthcare access. The criminal justice system destroys men at rates that would cause riots if the situation were reversed. Men receive 63% longer sentences for identical crimes. Men are more likely to be arrested, prosecuted, convicted, and incarcerated at every stage. A woman can murder her husband and claim abuse without presenting evidence. A man defends himself from attack and goes to prison.
Final call. Subscribe, comment, share. This is the truth they're trying to bury. Your action right now determines if this message reaches the men who desperately need to hear it. Don't scroll past. Act. The future looks genuinely bleak for young men entering society today. Educational systems systematically failing them, economic systems ruthlessly exploiting them, social systems actively excluding them, legal systems arbitrarily destroying them. They have no advocates, no institutional support, no hope that anything will improve. Their suffering is invisible because acknowledging it would require admitting that our entire worldview for the past 50 years got some fundamental things wrong. Here's the deep irony. Male suffering often comes directly from fulfilling traditional male obligations. Men destroy their bodies working dangerous jobs to provide for others. They sacrifice their mental health, suppressing emotions to be the stable rock. They forfeit their own lives, protecting others from harm. Their suffering comes from service to others, but that service is expected and demanded, while the suffering is ignored and dismissed. Every man reading this knows the truth of what I'm describing. You've felt the discrimination you're not allowed to mention. You've experienced the suffering you're not permitted to express. You've endured the injustices you're forbidden to protest. Your lived experience directly contradicts the approved narrative, but the narrative always wins. The solution isn't complicated, but it's impossible under current ideological conditions. Acknowledge that male suffering exists and matters. Create actual support systems for men. Hold everyone to identical behavioral standards. Judge suffering by its objective severity, not by the gender of who's experiencing it. But this would require admitting that 5 decades of gender politics got some very important things fundamentally wrong, and that admission isn't coming. Men need to start prioritizing themselves, because nobody else will do it for them. Build genuine brotherhood with other men. Create informal support networks. Share resources, knowledge, and strategies. Stop sacrificing endlessly for systems and people that openly hate you. Stop protecting those who wouldn't protect you. Stop providing for those who don't appreciate you. Your suffering matters even when society claims it doesn't. Your pain is real even when others dismiss it. Your struggles are valid even when they're ignored. You're not toxic for being male. You're not guilty for existing. You're not wrong for wanting basic recognition. The day is coming when male suffering cannot be ignored anymore, when the suicide rates become so catastrophic they're undeniable, when the education gaps become so severe they're catastrophic, when the loneliness epidemic becomes total societal collapse, when enough men check out completely that civilization stops functioning. That day is coming sooner than anyone thinks. But until then, men will continue suffering in silence. They'll continue dying in darkness. They'll continue sacrificing without recognition. Because that's what men do. They endure. They handle it. They carry on even when the weight is crushing, even when the pain is unbearable, even when the entire world pretends they don't exist. The tragedy isn't that men suffer. Suffering is an inevitable part of human existence. The tragedy is that male suffering is systematically ignored, minimized, mocked, and denied. The tragedy is that we've created a civilization where half of humanity's pain doesn't count. The tragedy is that we all know this, and we do nothing. Every statistic I've shared represents thousands of real destroyed men. Every percentage point is fathers separated from children, workers killed on dangerous jobs, veterans choosing death, boys failed by educational systems, men destroyed by false accusations. These aren't abstract numbers, they're human beings whose suffering we've collectively chosen to ignore. Your suffering matters. Your pain counts. Your struggles are valid. Your life has value beyond what you can provide to others. You deserve compassion, support, and recognition. You deserve better than silence, dismissal, and mockery. You deserve to be seen, heard, and helped. Share your stories in the comments below. Tell the world about suffering that was ignored. Describe pain that was dismissed. Document struggles that nobody cared about. Let's create the record that society refuses to keep. Let's bear witness to the suffering that's invisible. Because if we don't tell these stories, nobody will. If we don't acknowledge this pain, it remains hidden forever. If we don't support each other, we remain alone. Your story matters. Your suffering is real. And it's time the world finally acknowledged it. Subscribe now. This is just the beginning. Turn on notifications for every upload. Share this video everywhere. Comment your truth below. Together, we make the invisible visible. Together, we break the silence. Don't just watch, act now.